Welcome to CPG Vibes. No scripts,
just chat.
I'm Alex Baer.
And I'm Wade Yenny.
Each episode is recorded live, and we talk all things food and beverage, and so much more.
Feel our vibe and search for CPG Vibes on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and make sure to give us a 5-star review.
If you'd like to sponsor our show with your product or service, email us at cpgvibes100@gmail.com.
Now, let's vibe.
All right, welcome to episode 168 of CPG Vibes. Hope everyone is doing well out there. Wade, how's it going, buddy?
Good. It's been a long week, Memorial Week, and just been real busy, but good. I'm glad it's Friday. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, Friday came pretty quick with the Monday off. But yeah, same thing. We're all busy. We're all working hard and pursuing our passions and our dreams. And here we are, right? And we love what we do. And the CPG industry is a great industry to be in. It goes without saying, but I'll still say it because of the connections we make, the people, and I think also just the products, how they're really making a difference is exciting. Like these are cool, innovative products that are different from what's already on the market and also healthier in many cases than what's on the market. And I'm still on this kava kick. Like I really am. Like I'm seeing more products, kava products that are coming out. We talked about Lalo last week, right? And so, I did not find it at my local Sprouts. I meant to tell you that. I did not find, I know your team will be on this now, but I did not find it at the Torrance Sprouts, but I did see it at another one, the Redondo Beach Sprouts, the one in North Redondo. I live in Los Angeles. So just pass that on to the to the team that I couldn't find it.
Like hotcakes. It's selling. Well, the entire category is growing. I know
100%.
We talked about it, but excuse me, the non-alc alternatives, mocktails, all those things are blowing up. And I think, we had some discussions internally and then, personal observations starting to see these things pop up more predominantly in retail, whether it's grocery, conventional, natural, what have you. Definitely starting to see even more shelf. It's been a trend for the last couple of years, but now it just seems like it's exploding the space dedication to that category. So yeah.
People are just exactly right. People are getting away from alcohol, because alcohol has been many studies, and it doesn't take a genius to know that alcohol is not good for you. You can have a glass of wine every once in a while. It's okay. But if you really want to get the effect of feeling loose, of feeling kind of drunk, like, happy, all those things, there are ways to get there without actually consuming alcohol. There's a cool company, the NA Beverage Company. They're actually a client of ours, and really cool. So Dan Choi is the guy, and so he has started a company that is basically an NA, the NA Beverage Company, and it has functional ingredients that relax you and make you feel good. And also he has a blueberry lavender, I believe, which is out of this world. Doesn't have kava in it, but it has all these other functional ingredients, ashwagandha, L-theanine. So that's a cool product and company to look out for. But again, like the Lalo, so I'm going to find it. I know it was sold out. Once it comes back in, I'm going to go in there and buy it. And for whatever reason, like, because I get anxiety and like nervousness, like it's funny. And ironically, I'm a podcast co-host, right? So we all go through something, but kava really helps calm things down in a very healthy way. I like the functionality. The taste is very strong, but Lalo does a great job on masking how strong the kava root taste is. And I'm a big fan of it. So hopefully, like if you're out there and you're going through stress or anxiety, which does that happen in CPG ever, Wade? Stress and anxiety? Never.
What would there be stress about?
Nothing.
It's
It's
all
it's
rainbows and rosy skies.
yeah. So, but if you are, and there is some stressful moment where your pallet doesn't come in or your product doesn't arrive at the store or something blows up in your face on the production line, drink a Lalo, get some kava in you, and you'll feel right as rain. So good stuff. And one other product too that I want to show. This is cool because it just came out, and I've already torn through it with my wife here, so we ate most of it. But I'm just putting the package back together so you can see. Just get my finger out of the way. This is the Trader Joe's
Dubai chocolate.
Dubai chocolate. It's actually Dubai style.
Right.
So it's not authentic to actual Dubai chocolate because they're using dark chocolate. Dubai chocolate typically is milk chocolate. They do put the pistachio in. And usually with Dubai chocolate, it's kanafa. I'm pronouncing it hopefully right, which is a shredded wheat. That's like a delicacy in the Middle East. And this one, they're not using kanafa. They're using kataifi, which is
Hmm.
a different type of wheat, but not the same as kanafa. They're pricing it at a price point of $3.99. Um,
Wow.
and
What size is it?
it's a 100 grams, 3.52 ounces. And the typical Dubai chocolate, like an authentic one you find at a Middle Eastern store or even at a convenience store or gas station now, they're like at $10 plus for 100 gram. But I can show you at least what when you open the package here, they have the gold because that's, the traditional thing where it's a gold package. And then again, there's almost nothing left, but I can at least show what a piece looks like before I consume it here. Let me just do this. So here's what it looks like. There's the
Right.
pistachio
It's
in there.
like
It doesn't have a
the cream, right?
Yeah, it doesn't have a ton in here like the authentic one, but it's pretty good and it comes in little squares and I'm gonna eat the last square. But Trader Joe's, almost all of them are sold out. They came in on Tuesday and I found my local one that had like two left and I just
Hmm.
grabbed them. And there's a limit of 12 per customer. So if you're into Dubai chocolate, please comment and I'm going to eat this thing.
Nice. We grabbed some. I'm trying to think. Well, we were in Europe. I want to say we found it in, I believe, Amsterdam.
Okay.
Is where we picked it up at. But yeah, certainly the social aspect of it has blown up. It reminds me of last year, or maybe about a year and a half ago, that Celtic salt was such a big deal, and literally could not get it. We blew out of inventory, and the brand couldn't make it fast enough. The main brand, I can't think of where it was, but there was something going on TikTok, and it
Mm-hmm.
just literally was scarce. And then when you did get it in stock, people were buying jars and jars of whatever I call it a jar. It's not a mason jar or anything, but they're the salt container.
Mm-hmm.
So many of them at a time that just for whatever reason, it's just amazing the impact it has. But Dubai and now that's you're seeing that at Trader Joe's. You're seeing whether it's authentic or whatever. I don't even know at this point what authentic is anymore. It's
Right.
just that name on it, and people are buying it up in droves. So a limit of 12. That's probably a case or at least half a case.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing it's pack 12 or 24. So
Yeah, yeah, and it's pretty good. It doesn't hold a candle to the, again, what's authentic, but the ones that are sold like in the Middle Eastern stores in LA. A lot of Middle Easterners, right, in Los
mhm.
Angeles, very diverse here. And but the convenience stores are starting to carry them as well, and they have pretty authentic ones too. And they go for 100 gram is $12. The 200 gram bar, which is probably about that big, which is shareable, goes for $22 to $25 per jar per
Wow.
bar. And but it's very thick with pistachio, and that's what
Right.
makes it superior to the Trader Joe's is the gateway one, right? That's the one that gets you
Right.
aware of it. You try it, and then if you really like Dubai chocolate, you got to upgrade to the authentic ones you find in the ethnic
Well,
markets.
it's an entry level as far as
Three
introducing
ninety
it,
nine.
and I mean, not everyone can afford those other prices for a candy bar or a chocolate,
Yep.
if you will.
Yep.
So it's a nice treat for someone that maybe can't find it elsewhere or can't afford to buy the real thing, so to speak.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Exactly right. So some laundry list items here. We're just going to go over. We got a little delayed in talking about it with the Kava and Dubai chocolate chat. Maybe we can rename this podcast to Dubai and Kava
There you go.
hour. The
Must be
Dubai and
pretty
Kava hour.
trendy. It's trendy.
Trendy, the trendy hour. I like that. So, so with all that said, make sure to give us 5 stars. You go to Apple Podcasts. We are the #1 rated CPG podcast in the world. So help us keep that title and give us 5 stars. We also have sponsorships. If you'd like to sponsor one of these episodes, we're pretty selective these days on who we pick for sponsors. We're going to have a large sponsorship announcement in July. So we're going to be announcing that, and we're really excited to be partnering up with them. We're not going to say who it is yet, but that's happening in July. But if you'd like to be a weekly episode sponsor and get a lot of eyeballs on your product, there's also people listening on Spotify and podcast after the fact, several hundred. And so if you want to get that exposure, make sure to email us at cpgvibes100@gmail.com. We also have our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/@cpgvibes. And what else am I missing? We got our back wall. So we have Melting Forest, which you can go out and buy. Go to, a lot of natural stores have them. A lot of smoke shops also have them.
Mm-hmm.
And Feel Free, the Kava Kratom shot. Speaking of Kava. And then we have Dream Makers. Jeff Church has a accelerator coming up later this year, I believe, starting in around September, with some great speakers. Max Bauman, Mark Rampola, myself will be on there, and others. And it's a accelerator to learn all about your CPG business as a CPG owner and how to grow it sustainably with all these tips and tricks. And Jeff Church was the co-founder and the CEO of Suja, which was generating over 100 million when he departed and they got acquired. So he knows what he's doing as an operator. I think I got everything there. And we have our show next week. Just letting you know that it's going to be a master series, really good one, probably one of the biggest of the year, on June 6th. It's going to have, we're going to be featuring Chris Hunter, Mike Fata, Jake Carls, and one more guest, a mystery guest we're bringing on. And that will be next week, Friday at 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock Eastern.
All right. Should be big.
Yep. Okay.
We have to put a timer on the screen and time people so that we get around to everybody. That's a loaded show.
For sure. Yeah. It's luckily these guys are no strangers to podcasting, and they've been on so many episodes and different some of them have their own podcasts, right, or had them in the past. So I think these guys, they're good. They know what to do. So yeah, check it out. And then we're going to talk about a couple different topics here for this episode, and feel free, it's a plug to our sponsor there, feel free to chime in and to make comments. But the art of helping others is going to be one, and then finding gratitude in chaos. And I think, Wade, like last week was a really good show because it was a random babble series, but where we had no topics, but we really went into kind of the mental side and mental wellness and how to handle things and how to treat people and how to find happiness in what you're doing. And I think it resonated with a lot of people. I don't know about you, but I got text messages after the show from people saying that was one of the best episodes I've ever listened to or seen. I got a lot out of it, and I really resonated with it, and I want to see more of that. So in honor of the feedback, right, and you know who you are out there, we are doing another episode with just talking about really things that are deeper, right, deeper subject matter about being happier, how to treat people, and how to kind of balance yourself in a really chaotic industry. So the first one is the art of helping others. And so I can take a breath here. I'll pass it to you, Wade, but you're pretty much the king of doing this, where you help a lot of people and you never really expect anything in return. You're a giving, kind person. And I love to hear how you kind of do it and what your philosophy is there. And I'll hand it off to you.
Well, I think, I don't know about the king of that, but I think it's just being, doing unto others what you want them to do unto you. I think it's, I always talk about Steve Black and the 5 rules. Rule number 2 is be kind. I think, it's just helping others when you can, not just because you have to, and you really don't have to, but because you want to see others succeed. And actually, I'm gonna get deviate for a second because Curtis, I meant to text you or email you. I saw a TikTok the other day, and it's a market. I can't tell you where it is. I follow the seafood market in Florida. I want to say it's Clearwater, but it's called the Tides Market. And I love he's always doing his cooking dishes and things like that. But he did a tour of the store, and he said right at the beginning of the video, he said, "I'm going to show you a tour of the store while I have my lemonicious." And it was really cool to see that. That he had lemonicious, he's had it in his hand, and he walked through his store and did it. So, Curtis, I meant to email you that. So I'm glad you're here, that you could hear that. I share that with you again. It's the Tides Market. Might be the Tide Seafood, but if you haven't seen that, check it out. It's pretty cool. But anyways, going back to sorry, I got off track there. Yeah, I just think it's just helping others, and I think the general point of that is when you look at in my position, where I've been places, and my experience that I can share with people, and if in some way, shape, or form, even if it's just a tiny bit, it's I can help someone else. Why wouldn't you do that, right? And I think I think that's one of the things that appeals to so many about the natural and organic space, is that people in this channel are more like that, right? And certainly there are competitors, and you have to cut through some of that, but um everyone wants everyone to succeed, and it's just a really good environment to be in. And I think that's something that so many people in the space practice. It's the right way to go. So
Yeah. Very well said. Very well said.
I don't know, Derek just said something. I don't know anything about that, but oh,
I
Curtis
can
Curtis has been there, so that fantastic. That's awesome.
I'd help
I
you
love
can
I love that guy's seeing his cooking stuff.
yeah.
Well,
So
Derek, I don't know how I helped you,
mm,
but I don't remember, but I'm glad. I think the general thing is and this is we talk about with buyers, and I think so much frustration from brokers and salespeople and different things. Reaching out to buyers, and if I could give some encouragement to buyers. I feel qualified to say this because I've done that role in various capacities for the better part of 20 years. It doesn't take much to be kind, and just simply responding to an email saying no, thank you, or I think so many times that's what I hear. Oh, so and so is hard to get a hold of, or I've reached out 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and I think
mhm.
if you can simply just respond. So sometimes it's feedback. Obviously, we want, as salespeople, we want product on the shelf, right? And that's the ultimate goal. We want something. We always want something. But at the end of the day, if you can't get something on the shelf, you want feedback. And why, what does it take, or what are you looking for, or something. And I think so many times buyers get inundated, and even after persistence, there's a lack of back and forth. And I think I would encourage, if at all possible, just to the salespeople to be, as Matt Cotton says, pleasantly persistent. But on the buyer
Mhm.
side, use a little kindness, and put yourself out there. And Robert Johnson, New Seasons, is doing a good job of being opening up and sharing content and being available to people. And I think certainly I don't expect all buyers to do that. They don't have the time, and not everybody wants to. But even just responding, to every third or fourth email, it'll go a long way with help connect the bridges that are out there. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you put a lot out there, and it was really, really well said. I think there's a very positive energy that happens to yourself when you help others without expecting anything in return. I'm a big believer of that. You feel good, right? So when you feel good for helping others, then naturally you're going to attract better energy, and you're going to gain from that. And eventually, whether it's personally or professionally, you're just going to be in a better spot. And so when it's kind of if I do this, I get this in return, right? If you expect that kind of stuff, and you're always like looking for a compensation when you're helping others, you're not really going to get too far. You're not going to get a lot of business. And if you think back to, any of the clients, right, that you've gotten, whether it's personally, whether it's through V-Driven in the past, usually you become friends first, and you trust each other first, and you're helping each other first, and you're helping them before they really decide to move forward and hire you. And so I treat every phone call, even if I know they're not even ready to hire me yet, right, for crowdfunding or whatever it is, or they just want advice, I treat it like we're friends, and I treat it that I probably, I'm going to get nothing in return. If something happens, great. That's gravy, right? That's the cherry on top. But I'm here just to help. And inevitably, what happens is usually get some business from it. I mean, there have been some clients where I talk to them and, in the phone call, I'm just helping and offering advice for an hour. And I'm not even sure if they're ready to even do this. I'm not even sure if they have the money, right, to even hire me. And because they're strapped. And they say that in the beginning, like, I'm pretty strapped, may not be able to afford the services, but I do have some questions. And instead of me saying, well, if you're not ready to pay for it, then I can't really help you. That's not the right attitude. I help them no matter what, right? I'm not always perfect, but I usually try to help and try to make time and hop on the phone with people. And even if they don't hire me for 6 months, a year, or more, eventually it will come back to you when they are ready. And they'll say, oh, wow, Wade or Alex or whoever it is, he really helped me about a year ago and he wasn't expecting anything in return. Well, I got some money now. I can actually hire them and move forward on this. He was very good to me, so I'm going to return the favor to them. So I think having that attitude and mentality brings a lot to you on the professional level. And then on the personal level, you just feel like you're helping humankind. You're just helping people. And when you help people, you inevitably, there's chemicals that get released in your body, right? Endorphins when you help others that make you feel really good. And then when you feel good, you're going to carry yourself that way into every relationship, into every conversation. And inevitably, you're going to have a better day. So I'm a big believer in it, just to be unconditionally helpful and not have any strings attached. And you never know where it could lead. And then the other thing too is that people also refer you when you're good to people as well, which you've been a benefactor of, Wade. For V Driven and for yourself personally, and even with V Driven before you joined V Driven, like you always treated Luke so well, and you still do, right? And you guys are friends. You built a relationship over several years. It started at Jimbo's and then Fresh Market. And because of how kind you were and continue to be to Luke and V Driven, they wanted to bring you on board and have you be with the company, right? Which is a huge honor. And so I think that also you afforded that opportunity by the way that you manage that relationship over a long time, many years.
Well, I appreciate that. What I would say is, it's a two-way street, right? I mean, Luke, long before I worked for him, and I think he's busy today. He's probably not listening, but long before I worked for him, he reached out to me, and this was after he'd already left Jimbo's. I've told this story. Our paths really didn't cross working together at Jimbo's, at least under Jimbo's, but they crossed at Jimbo's because he reached out to me and asked me to go to lunch, and we got to know each other, and it just clicked from there. And what I'll say, Luke is a master of relationships and
Mm-hmm.
continually checking in. He'd come, he'd let me know when he was in the area. Hey, do you have time? And it didn't always work out, but if it did, certainly we got together, and that in California. Then I moved over here, and it grew into a lot more. And I always talk, when you're on the subject about, and I think the next subject you want to talk about a little bit about, I think they're closely related from a standpoint of, um, you know, having a close circle of people that you can count on and confide in and reach out to for advice or to vent or to bounce ideas off of or something like that. And I certainly don't want to name all mine because I don't want to share them. No, I'm just teasing. But I don't want to miss someone. I mean, but I have several that I count on, and Luke is one of those people, and he was long before I worked for him. And so when I started to go through my own internal processes of being ready to make a move and things like that, Luke was one of the people that I confided in. And to your point, we built a relationship, and there was a lot of back and forth. And long story short, here I am. But I think it's all relative to one of the posts I put up, I think, this week with regards to relationships. And we talk about the degrees and the separation and yada yada. But it really is, whether it's directly or indirectly, you and I talking, the people that are listening, watching, or will listen down the road, connecting the dots, and you hear Curtis and some of the comments he's making, Derek, and so on and so forth. But, I think what I said in my post was, the people you see on your way up, you might just see on your way down, or vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
And really understanding that, just being kind and being available and being present and being open and transparent and all those things. The biggest brand you have, I don't care if you're a CEO or if you're an hourly employee, and I kind of reference this, but the biggest brand you have or can support is yourself, your own personal brand. And you are the ones in control of that. The way you project yourself, the way you treat others, if
Hmm.
you're helping others, and those things. And I think it's important that you think about that. So many people as founders are thinking about their brand, but they're not really thinking about their personal brand as much. And it starts there, and it just kind of goes from there. So just share that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And just some comments here that we can shout out, I think are awesome. Full a lot of love here in the room here. So we have Curtis Knight, Lemonicious. Alex has always been super helpful to me. Look forward to working with him in the future. Thanks, brother. I appreciate that. Yeah, I've had several conversations with Curtis. It started out where we connected, I believe, on LinkedIn, and then our first call, he said, "You're going to be blown away by," I've told this story a few times, but like, "You're going to be blown away by our product." And then he sent me the product, and then I went on FaceTime with him, and he sent me not only the product and a lot of them, but he sent me a really cool bag that I use every day, every weekday. It's like a black and white bag, kind of looks like a Sephora bag. It's like a custom bag, and it perfectly fits drinks and snacks. And when I'm out doing sales in the field, I use that bag. So thanks Curtis for sending me that. I see it, I think of him literally every day because of the bag. And but I've talked with him probably 5 or 6 times, maybe even more, and we've had hour-long conversations that are not just about business. They're about personal. They're about how to handle stress that happens and how heavy it could be just making the product, selling the product, going to farmers markets, running. And that will get into our next topic of finding gratitude in chaos. But I just really enjoy Curtis as a human being. He's a great person,
Yeah.
and I've met his wife too. Like, they're both great people, and they're kind and they're honest and they're hardworking. And so, more above and beyond anything else, whether, and it's great that hopefully we get to work together, but above and beyond any of that, just as a friendship and being colleagues and being in this industry together, that's already great for me, right? To get to know him over time, right? And get to know his personality and then also his goals, and helping him however I can to reach his goals. And then Derek Gould, same thing. He's just a big, supporter of our show, big supporter of us. He was one of the first ones to come by live at Expo West.
Mhm.
So he says, I crave the luxury of working with people I like, so I try to get to know them first. It is one, that's funny. It is one sexy bag. Yep. So yeah. So I think, like, we're just, when you do good things and when you have great intentions, and what you put out in the universe typically is going to come back. And when you go home at night and you get into bed, you can tell yourself that you gave it your all and you helped others. With all that said, you also need to help yourself too. And I always talk about that. Like, make sure to not burn out, make sure not to push too hard and try to help too many people and be a people pleaser. So there's that side of it too, where you need to balance your own wellness with helping others. So I just wanted to mention that too.
Right. Yeah, and I think, again, going back, tying it back into the community, and I'm not by any way, shape, or form tooting my own horn, but I'm sure I'm a big podcast listener. I listen to a lot of podcasts, both in the space, outside the space, all over the things. And I screenshotted something last week and sent it to a podcast host, actually hosts, just let them know that I listened to it, I followed it, and I rated it, and just want to let them know that I did, and not because I wanted a pat on the back or anything like that, but just, hey, I appreciate what you're doing, keep doing it, and in this space again, there's a zillion options for podcasts, and
Mhm.
we do this, we've been doing it for 2 years plus, almost three, whatever it's been, a long time. And constantly you hear us asking for ratings and things like that, but why not reach out to someone that you do listen to? If you're not, here we are each week saying, give us 5 stars, do this, do this, do this, and it's part of the marketing and whatnot behind what we do. But at the same time, we should be leading by example and doing that. And I kind of thought about that a little bit. And last week, I'm like, I listened to this. Why haven't I done that yet? So, that's again, those of you listening right now, I'd encourage you, if you haven't, not just our show, but if there's other shows out there, do that. So, support it, because a lot of us, there isn't a lot of this is a way of giving back, but just that encouragement and that support means an awful lot. And I think it's like writing a review for a friend that wrote a book or something like that. It's just, it's really important. So
Yeah. Did you ever get a book from Mike Fata, by the way? Did you run into him at
I got one.
Expo?
Yep, I did.
Okay.
I
It was
did.
really cool. Like he signed the inside cover
Yep.
and everything.
Yep.
And I've read the book. Have you gotten through it? Or are you still reading it?
I have it. I have it. I've read probably 3/4 of it. I haven't got through the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just a shout out to because he's on our show next
Yep.
week as well. But he to me is like a big example of giving, like giving back, right? He just like he is a lot of people don't know this about him, but I mean, people do, right? But if you look at him and just meet him, you would never know that. Like, I mean, he sold twice in the nine figures for his business, Manitoba Harvest. And he, I don't know what his bank account looks like, but it's probably very healthy. And so he leads in a way which is, I want to help others. I want to put media out there. He's obviously building his own brand, right? And he's building his book and his podcast and his, the 60-second pitches and all that stuff that you see on LinkedIn from founders. But like he doesn't have to do any of this stuff. He wants to do it. He wants to help others. So I think he's a good example of like he already has enough money probably to support himself and his family for the rest of his life, but he's doing it because he likes to do it, and that brings a more positive energy to him. And if and when, right, I become rich, right, if and when I'll say, I'd still be. I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing, helping others, talking to people. You don't just disappear with a luggage of cash and go to Tahiti, right? You stay right here where you're at, maybe in a bigger house, right? But you stay right here and you help people, and that's what gives you that positive kind of energy and good feeling. So, let's go to our second topic here, which is finding gratitude in chaos. And I will say, without getting into major detail, that running a CPG brand can be totally chaotic and soul sucking, and it could be great and exhilarating. There's both sides to it. There's the sweet, and there's the really sour, and then there's the really sweet. And I ran Genius Juice, the coconut smoothie brand, and the Wellness Shot brand for 10 years, nearly 10 years, actually over 10 years if you count the R&D. And chaos upon chaos upon chaos. And I didn't know, I was pretty green back then. I never ran a business of that size. And one thing that I fell into the trap of was just what's next? Okay, this or that needs to be solved, and that's going wrong, or how do we fix that? And like really just getting caught up in the details day after day after day. And it's hard to do, but taking a step back and just telling yourself, I created this from nothing. I created this product. I got it into distribution. I'm hiring people now, right? And supporting the economy and paying someone else's bills, right? By paying them money and helping others. And also with the product itself, helping them by eating healthier or drinking healthier, right? Depending on what the product is. And so I think like stepping back outside of the trees and looking at the entire forest and going, this is pretty fucking amazing what I built. And I accomplished something. And that's really special. And it's really rare. And it's very hard to do what I am doing. And I'm talking third person for another founder that created a brand. So if you're out there and you created a great brand, right? Or a brand that's out there, even if the brand is small and it's only in 10 stores or 5 stores or only on Amazon, you've already done more than 99.5% of others who never took that step into creating the product, putting in the money, raising money, and physically getting it on a shelf. So I think like being proud of yourself and celebrating small victories along the way versus just getting caught up in what you don't have. Also celebrate what you do have.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. Well, I think it's, I've talked about this before too, that I know, speaking for myself, um, often we're our own worst critics, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that's constructive and healthy, but it can be the opposite as well. And I think, kind of what you're talking about, it's like, giving credit where it's due and receiving that and being kind to yourself, right? It's be kind to others, be kind to yourself. And I think so many times you get caught in the muck that you can't see the forest through the trees. And the other thing I think along those lines is, as you're mentioning, getting in the details and things like that is also, doing some prioritization, doing some thinking, and not treating everything like it's a forest fire, because not everything is.
Mhm.
And I think, being whether you're a people pleaser or trying to solve problems, not everything needs to be solved immediately, right? I mean, and I think that's one of the things, as founders, it can be very easy to see it that way, but by prioritizing and understanding that, hey, this can wait, I let me process this, because this really truly is important. Let's work through it, make a wise decision here, and then, here's some of this things over here. But trying to plug so many holes at one time often can be problematic
Mhm.
and unhealthy. So
Yeah, I mean, it can going back to the burnout factor, and then when you're burned out, you just aren't yourself. You could lose your temper easily, you get emotional easily, right? When you're strung out, burned out, tired, you lose balance, and then it not only affects yourself, but it affects your family, right? We talked about last week, right? It affects the people around you. So, yeah, so I think like there's we talked about it last week, but I've said that 4 times now, is journaling. And again, I have fallen off the wagon. I'm getting back on. I'm going to put a journal entry in today, right after this podcast. And when you journal and you go back to where you were and how far you've gone, right? How far you've come, it's a pretty amazing thing. So I bet, right, if you're a founder and you start journaling as you're creating your product, and you go back to that journal entry 3 years later, 4 years later, even a year later, even 6 months later, you're going to see how much you've progressed and the milestones that you've hit. And I remember this Genius Juice where, I was like, oh man, it'd be awesome to be in Whole Foods. Be incredible to be in Whole Foods because that is our market. That's the person that gets this product. I could see the genius head right on the shelf, right lined up, and people are going to see it right next to Harmless Harvest. They're going to see it right next to Koya and Rebel, and it's going to stick out as a very kind of quirky brand, right? Which is what we went for with our branding. And if you don't know what it looks like, Google Genius Juice, right? You'll see. And we finally got it in 20. It took a year, not even a year, but we got it 3 stores. We got Tustin, we got which is near Expo. We got Third and Fairfax, and we got El Segundo, the one right near the airport, which you've probably been to because it's right near the airport. And I just remember again, the mentality was go, 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 go. I'm like, okay, we got 3. How do we get all 55 now? Right. Because at that time there were 55 in the region. And I didn't even celebrate the 3. That's how fast we were moving. And then we went to 55. Then we went to 3 regions. And then there was some back and forth. We lost a region or 2. We gained them back. Long story short, we went global. We went global except for 2 regions, right, that had it before. And we had a supply issue. So we couldn't get back in the region. You know how that goes. But we were basically in 9 of the 11 regions. I think there's 11 of Whole Foods, I believe. And so, and I never took the time to like sit back and say, just like, a few years ago, we were only in 3 stores and now we're in 400 plus stores. And like, wow, like, would you ever have dreamed, right? When you came up with the recipe, you came up with a logo that you're in over nearly national with a major natural retailer. And not only that, then you get Sprouts, then you get Costco, and like you get all these Target. You're like, holy shit, like I did this, right? And so I think founders, like you said, are, we're our own worst enemy. But being repetitive here, but take a step back. If you're a brand that's national somewhere or even on a shelf, just be really, really proud of that. And I know how hard it is. Wade knows how hard it is to even launch a brand, just to go through the legal stuff, forming the company, raising money. It's a minor miracle to get it through production and on the shelf, right? Because most brands fail. In the first year, 90 to 95% of all brands fail. And of those that survive the first year, only 10% of those are around the next couple years. So we're talking less than 1% of brands make it after a few years. So yeah. So I guess just, we said it, don't be too hard on yourself. Find the joy and the fact that you got this far.
Yeah. Makes sense. Well, we've got a few comments in here. Let's see if we can see him here. Curtis is talking about his bag. That's he says it's one sexy bag.
It's a great
And
bag.
talking
I
about
want to go
the
get it and show
uh,
it.
to Derek. Really enjoy being around Curtis at Expo. I think you feel the same way. And where we eventually get our own Expo booth, it will be epic.
Yep.
So good stuff.
Yeah,
Good stuff.
he's got a great product for like a trade show because it's shareable and it's delicious and it goes without saying, but I keep saying it that he has. I feel it lived up to the hype. He hyped it up for me, but then when I tried it, I loved it, and so yeah, I think he's going to have a great expo. Hopefully next year, Curtis, you'll be at Expo West. We'd love that. So anything else to just add on the subject here?
I don't know about this subject. I was going to say I know there's been some news about some pretty serious fundraising out there this week. Yeah, the David Bar, you saw that?
Yeah, that's insane. They're valued at $750 million.
Amazing. It's amazing. And then yeah,
Hmm.
they raised what, 75 million?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds
Yeah.
about right.
Well, and looking at it, I'm hoping maybe there's a silver lining there that maybe we're starting to see the other end of this, where cash has dried up so much from so many investors, and we've seen some big announcements like that over the last few weeks. Maybe that's the opening of the door for brighter skies ahead. At least that's hopeful, because it's certainly the last year and a half, it's dried up quite a bit.
Hmm.
So I don't know. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts?
I partially agree, but also disagree on one thing that I think for the smaller brands, it's going to continue to be really hard. And when I say a smaller emerging, under 5 million in revenue, not under a million, under 5 million.
Hmm.
Because you remember this like I do, but in 20 when I started in this business in 2014, 2015, 16, 17, there were all these venture funds that were putting in money like either a pre-revenue or in the first million. Like you hit a million or half a million, like we're going to invest, right? We'll put in a couple million in your pre-seed, or maybe like a very early Series A, right? Which happened to Health Aid, right? They got a very early Series A when they were really, really, really young, and the VC really, these VCs, they're betting on the founders, they're betting on the category. A lot of that is no longer existing, right? Where these smaller brands can raise a serious amount of capital, unless you're, with the David Bar, right? Where
Mhm.
like you've done it before. Peter did
Right.
it with our X Bar. So he has the operational experience and he proved it once before. So he can definitely do it again. And that's what he's doing right now. And so, yeah, it's a lot harder to raise any kind of serious capital when you're younger. So I think that is still the challenge. And there's still that chasm where you're young and emerging and you got to your million, you're trying to get to 5 million, but then like to get to 10 million plus where you really can start raising capital, get a Series A, raise 3, 5, 10 million plus. That's a big divide where a lot of brands, die, right, or perish
Mhm.
within that chasm. And so they have to be sustainable, they have to be profitable, all the things we've talked about, they have to have solid margins. And that's where the crowdfunding comes in. That's why I do what I do, because most of my clients, I mean, one of our clients was Mela, who was outside of that. They were already at over 10 million in revenue, and they were using WeFunder for crowdfunding for marketing purposes. But most brands, they need that 500,000, that quarter million, just to kickstart it and to make sure they can afford multiple productions and also support the product in stores, support it with demos, support it with, um, with the temporary the TPRs, right? And so that's why crowdfunding has gotten so popular in the last few years, because since 2022, when the bottom fell out and the heyday and glory days were over as far as anyone can get capital, now they're looking at alternate sources. And actually, I'm going to be on a webinar in July that is titled something around along the lines of skip the VCs and go to crowdfunding, right?
Hmm.
Or at least delay the VCs and go to crowdfunding, because it's going to be a lot of time spent pitching and pitching and pitching when they're not ready to put the money in and you're not far enough along, and you need a bridge, right, of capital to get you to that next level before you can start raising on a Series A. So I think this is going to continue. I think it's going to be hard for brands to raise money. And I mean, I won't name funds, but you know this, like you've seen it, where these funds 7 years ago, they're like, yeah, we'll talk to you if you're at 1 million, where they're like, come back when you're at 5 million, right? Like, come
Right.
back later because we need serious proof of concept that you can go to the moon before we put $1 in. So they're getting more, there's just more underwriting and more strictness as far as when they come in, and they want to get in at a later stage because so many brands have failed, because the failure rate is so high. So I think that's where it's at, in my opinion.
So when you think about it, without going too far down a crowdfunding rabbit hole,
Sure.
it's still pertinent. We're on topic with what kind of pivoted, but it's okay. That's what we do.
Yeah.
Um,
No script, just
do
chat.
you is there any data or information with regards to what the average donation or not donation or investment is
Mhm.
on crowdfunding? What does that look like? What is the average person putting in? I'm sure it's probably varies based on the campaign, but what in general, what does it look like?
For a Reg CF campaign, now there's two different types of campaigns that you see on crowdfunding. There's Reg CF. This is all termed by the SEC, Securities Exchange Commission. Reg CF is regulation crowdfunding, right? They have their own set of rules for just that. Then there's also Reg A, and there's Reg A plus. There's like different distinctions there. Reg A is when you're raising above 5 million.
Hmm.
I don't usually work with those brands. I like to work with emerging, younger brands, natural brands that are trying to get their first million in the bank to really grow their brand. So Reg CF is who I work with. So for Reg CF, the average investment, at least that I've seen statistically, and it could be subject to change, is around $850 to
Hmm.
$900. A majority of people invest 250, 500, 1,000. Like that bucket is like 70, 80, 90% of the investors that go into crowdfunding. But then you have some big heavy hitters, right? That put in 25,000 or 50,000. That's what weights it closer to 1,000 because of the big people that put the money in. There's a question here,
Yeah, I was going to
or at
ask.
least
I was going to ask it to you. I'm not sure who it's from, but do you think crowdfunding creates more high risk brands, given that they're relying on funding from people that have not necessarily cut their teeth in the market, making critical decisions like VC?
short answer is yes, because when you're younger, you're more high risk, right? When you don't have as much revenue and as much money in the bank, it's
Yep.
higher risk.
Derek from Prana, by the way. I just
Got it.
I can see it on the app. I can't see it on here. But
What's up,
hi,
Derek?
hey Derek.
Yeah. So, but that's the nature of it, where a majority of investors are putting in less than $1,000. So even if the brand fails, they're out $1,000 or 500. Now there's the big guys that put in money, but they probably have a lot of money, right? And so if they're putting in 25 or 50, they must have a lot of money in the bank where they could afford to lose that
Lo-
money,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
Comparably, it's e-
Yeah.
comparably similar risk,
Similar risk. Yeah.
relative to their where they're at financially.
Exactly. Exactly. So I would say, could cut their teeth in the market. Yeah, so that's the beauty of it, is a lot of these people on crowdfunding just want to see a brand go, and they support them on their mission and on their product and ingredients and making the planet a better place. And they just put money in. There's these people on WeFunder and Start Engine where they just bounce from one to the next. They just like 500 here, 250 there, 700 here, 100 here. They just go boom, boom, boom down the line, and they want to be a part of the movement. So that's why they do it. They want to track them and see how they do. If you put in $250 into a campaign, right? Are you going to get rich off that? Of course not. If you get a 5x return, you're at $1,000, right?
Right.
10x return, you're at a couple $1,000. But people enjoy doing it to help others. Going back to our original thing, and you're probably not going to get a return, or it's going to be small, or it's going to take 5 years or 10 years. But people on WeFunder do it just to help others. So
Nice. Nice.
yep. So I have a hard stop, actually, so we
Okay.
can end a few minutes early here, because I think we've gone through up and around and everywhere on these topics and some other topics. Is there anything else like to add or chat about before we conclude for the day?
I don't think so. You've got a hard stop. We can give ourselves a break because who knows? Based on what you're saying and what I'm guessing, next week will not be as short-winded as
Yeah.
with the guests you have lined up. So should be good. We'll give everybody a breather and get the weekend started. It's June 1st on Sunday, so
Hmm.
summer's here. Summer's here.
Summer's here. Got a dancing in the street. All right. So again, next week is our Master Series Volume 7 with Chris Hunter, Koya, Mike Fazza, and Mike Fazza, who is Manitoba Harvest, and Jake Carls, co-founder of Midday Squares. And we're working on a fourth mystery guest as well. So make sure we're going to be announcing the event on Monday. You can click attend so you can be notified once the event goes live and all that good stuff. And yeah, everyone have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you all next week on Friday. Take care, everyone. See you, Wade.
Bye, guys.